All right, guys, this next guest, you may know him from back in the day, Scribble Jam competitions, maybe Grind Time, or maybe you might know him from going viral on YouTube before the term YouTuber was an actual thing. I'm talking about the one and only Mac Lethal.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate the applause. I didn't know there was a studio audience here, so it's nice to hear them cheering.
Hey, man, I got to do it big for you. You know what I mean? You've been in the biggest crowds and everything, you know?
Yeah, man. I appreciate it. Well, thanks for having me on, bro. You're inspiring. I love all your content. I watch it, so I hope I can at least be somewhat interesting to the crowd of people that watches your stuff.
Are you kidding me, man? People were asking for an interview with you. And plus, like, you got like so much history. It was hard for me to like narrow down the questions. I was like, dang, it's like so much stuff. Like, if I try to go through every single project, we'll never be able to get through this interview.
Oh, yeah. I've been at this shit for a long time, bro.
Yeah, for sure, man. So
when you said you were doing research, I was like, that's a lot of research to do. That's a long fucking, it's just, I'm 44. It's been a while, man.
Yeah, it's a lot, man. It's a lot. But so we're doing the interview in triple time speed, right?
Yeah, sure. Let me get a beat. let me chop it up for you real quick. Yeah.
Why did you move? No. So starting at the beginning, you're born in Kansas City, Missouri, and you moved to the Kansas side, right?
Yeah. So I was born actually. So the interesting thing about Kansas City that a lot of people that are not from the area don't know is Kansas City is kind of one city separated into two states. So you can be in Kansas City, Kansas, and cross a street and be in Kansas City, Missouri, and go right back over to Kansas seconds later. And there's a street called State Line that separates the two cities, and then there's other highways and stuff. But for the most part, the Kansas and Missouri side are one, and it's really, I mean, you could literally just walk and you're right over to the Missouri side or Kansas side. But I was born in Missouri, and then grew up for the most part in Kansas.
So, like, how long are you living in Missouri for before you move over to the Kansas side?
Till I was like 10. I lived in a place called Raytown, Missouri, and then moved to a place called Overland Park. I lived in a place called Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas. So I've lived in a few places around the area, but I would say like 9 or 10 is when I moved over here.
Okay, so the first 10 years, what is the neighborhood like?
Well, Raytown, Missouri now is pretty run down, but when I lived there, I don't think it was quite as bad as it is now. It was more of a kind of up and coming blue collar place. So the neighborhood there was cool. And then Overland Park, where I live now, is a great area. It's like comparable to Irvine, California, which we were talking about before we started the interview, or like, it's like a really nice place that you would want to raise a family. It has really great schools, stuff like that. So that's where I grew up, is Overland Park.
Got you. Okay. So like, what is the demographics like of the culture that you're growing up amongst in the first 10 years?
Man, in the first 10 years, in Raytown, it's just been so long ago. It's just blue collar. I'd say the demographics are blue collar. Maybe now it's if you compared where I grew up, like where I spent the first 10 years of my life when I was there, to now, it's just not quite as nice of a place now. So the demographics when I was there was blue collar.
So mainly white people, or?
Maybe I would say it was more of a mix. And then when I moved to Overland Park, I would say it would be more white people for sure. Like the elementary school that I went to, Overland Park, was definitely predominantly white. And then the school district I went to was mostly white, suburban Kansas City suburbs area. It's just hard to remember like the first 10 years of my life and what it was like. I don't want to give you a non-answer, but it's right, I don't know. Yeah.
So did you grow up with any siblings?
I have two older sisters that are 10 and 11 years older than me. So I was kind of an accident or a surprise rather. So I have two sisters that I'm in my 40s, they're in their 50s now. So they were out of the house and doing adult stuff when I was still a kid.
Wow. So they almost like played more like that auntie or older cousin kind of like role, right?
100%. Yeah, that's exactly right. So it would definitely be it wasn't like having siblings because I have a son and a daughter and they're together all the time arguing with each other, competing against each other, and it really wasn't like that because my older sisters were much more like caretakers to me. So it was definitely more of an auntie type of caretaker, like second and third mom type of role.
Right. And you're Irish?
Yeah, Irish and a little British. There's a little bit of British in there, but a majority of my lineage is from Ireland. Yeah.
So what was the household like as far as those customs? Was it very traditional in that way?
No, like I think that my mom and my dad grew up in really traditional kind of uh Irish Catholic structure. There was a lot of dysfunction inside of my family. So one of the things we didn't really have was a lot of customs and stuff like that. It was honestly, man, like my childhood and my life and the house that I grew up in, I was kind of alone a lot. So we didn't have I didn't have strict parenting. I had fractured parenting. So my mom and my dad, they split up when I was really young, and there was a lot of dysfunction and relationship problems with them, and I didn't really grow up in that type of strict Irish Catholic Irish household that people grow up in. It just wasn't really like that. It was like alcohol and divorce and stuff like that more than anything.
How old are we talking?
Five. So I was five when my parents got divorced, or maybe even four. So I was really young. And then I bounced between two places in my childhood.
So you never like grew up watching them like be loving to each other or having like that kind of representation of what a relationship is like supposed to look like.
No, never in my life. I don't have a single second of my life that I can recall my mom and my dad being together. That was just never a thing that I got to experience. My whole reality, as far back as I can remember, is them being apart. So it was never anything that I got to witness or have set as an example. And it's a big reason that I'm like with the way that I raise my children now is I try to do the exact opposite and give them as many examples as I can because I just had so few examples growing up.
So your sisters are from the same exact parents, both parents.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
So that's so crazy. They were together for so long. Like, why did they separate when you were five though? At that time,
So they had my sisters and then they like kind of fell out with each other and then they got back together, and then in that little window of time where they were back together, I was born, and then they immediately fell out again. So I was the product of like a short-lived relationship burst that they had where they were like back with each other, then I came out, and then it was over, and then they would never reunite again.
did you ever talk to your parents about the dynamics between them when you were a child? Like, was that explained to you, or how did you process that?
In a lot of ways, they were constantly at odds. My entire so my mom died when I was 23, and from the moment that I can remember, like my earliest memory to the moment my mom died, I never saw them have a healthy interaction with each other. And it was like one of the heaviest, most, I don't want to say traumatic, but most emotionally triggering moments of my life was when my mom was on her deathbed. My dad sat with her and they made peace with each other, which is something that I had never seen before. They literally were at odds, vicious to each other, hated each other, talked badly about each other, took each other to court. I mean, it was bad. And then when my mom was dying, which was a really rapid thing, she got sick, and then very quickly they said she's not going to make it longer than a few months. My dad sat with her like one night, days before she died, and they I don't want to say they put it all behind them, but they talked. And then my parents were both folk musicians. My mom was a banjo player and a guitarist, and my dad is a guitarist. He's still alive, and they both sing and came from musical backgrounds, and they sang a song together, and it was the hardest I've ever cried in my life. And I wasn't, it was because it was so foreign to me. It was this thing that I'd never seen in my life. And to watch a relationship that for 23 years of my life has been contentious, that I've only seen be hostile and manipulative and cold, and to see this right when my mom is getting ready to die, they were big enough to put their differences aside and then sing together. And it was just the most overwhelmingly heavy emotional experience I'd ever had until that moment. So I never got to, I never had any communication with them about healthy relationships, about what it's supposed to look like in a good dynamic. I never got to do that with either of my parents. My mom was a little abusive, physically abusive, and very, very hot tempered. And then my dad was always really distant. So it's just kind of this, I don't know, it was hard to ever piece those puzzle pieces together. I'm doing it now in my 40s through my children more than I ever did as a child.
Right. So no healthy examples of what love is supposed to look like, basically.
No, and not only that, but it spilled over into all of my relationships after that, is all of the patterns that I learned from them. Like, bro, like if you don't undo that shit, if you don't learn how to unpack your trauma and the things that you learned from your family and the dynamics that you witnessed, if you never take the time to actually realize how it affected you, you're going to just do that in your own relationships, and you won't even realize you're doing it. You just think that that's how it's supposed to be done. So I'd say the last like 7-8 years have been the most productive for me in terms of understanding how to service a relationship, how to love, how to be there for somebody, how to receive love, all those different things that are really foreign concepts to a lot of people that grew up around parental dysfunction.
Were your parents working musicians? Like that's how they made their living?
No, they never got to do it at that level. They loved to play music. My mom was exceptionally talented as a singer and a banjo player. Her dad was an amazing guitarist. So they were like, it was community for them. It was a thing where they would sit as a family and sing songs together. They would play songs together. They never were even considering the idea of trying to do it professionally or anything like that. That just wasn't a reason that you did music for them. They did music because music is what you did with your friends and family.
How would you describe yourself as a child? Were you like really quiet, social, into sports?
Yeah, both. I was quiet and into sports, and I think nice. I think that like when I was actually thinking about this today. I think that as a kid, I was I've my memories of myself as a child are that I just wanted to be like sweet to people, and I liked sports, but I was just kind of like I came out and was just exposed to this like breaking family, and there was just nobody that really tapped in with me and was like, hey, like, this is who you are. This is how you're a part of this. I just kind of felt like an outsider in my own family at a young age. Like I was born into it, just being like, what is going on? There's this whole established dynamic between these two older sisters that I have that are 10 and 11 years older than me and my two parents. And then I'm just this kid that like, I just kind of got shoved aside. So I would say quiet, and I liked sports, but generally just I just wanted to be friends with people. Like that was my thing.
So do you feel like there was a lack of nurturing for you as a child?
Yeah, probably. I would say that like now that I'm in my 40s and having met a lot of people and listen to different people's experiences. And I think everybody has this to a degree. I think there's a lot of people. It's a very common thing that you meet people that have painful stories or things where you see how their parents could have raised them better. I think that that's very human. It's very common for people. But I would say that yeah, probably there was probably a lack of nurturing. There was a lot of isolation. There was a lot of me just being by myself, of me feeling like I didn't know how to connect with people or ask for things. I mean, I don't know. I definitely loved my parents and loved my family and have the capabilities of loving now. But I would say, yeah, probably. I think so. I think I got lost in the shuffle of a family kind of breaking apart and being young, and I don't think people were too interested in raising me, and so yeah, I would say that there was a little bit of that.
What was it about school that you really didn't like?
Man,
Did you feel like
I
it was too slow for you?
yeah, too slow, and the structure of school. It's the feeling, the mundane feeling that I the it's the same way that I felt whenever I had an office job, like before I could do this professionally. It's the same feeling that I got from doing something tedious and boring. I just that environment was not a place that I could thrive. It was a place that I felt checked out all the time. I hated it. I fucking hated school. So yeah, it was boring, it was mundane, it was hard to focus, it was hard to pay attention.
Public school usually goes without a lot of like creativity or focus on like artistic things, and you know what I mean. So unless you go to like more like private or like some of those charter schools that they have no special arts type of stuff, you know. So I feel like you probably didn't thrive because of the lack of create because you're such a creative person, you know.
Yeah, no, I think so too. And I always wish that I could have gone to a school where they did like performing arts, or I think that that should be an option for kids. Like I can tell you that my daughter hates school now. She's 9, and I see a lot of myself in her where I look at that and go, man, I wish there was a school I could send her to, at least in the area that I live in, which is partially one of the reasons I want to come west. Is I wish there was a school that could tap into like what she's capable of more than the conventional ways that we have here. She's not really a math person. She's not a bookworm type person. She's expressive, funny, dramatic. She likes to pay attention when it's exciting and unorthodox. And I think I wish that I had something like that growing up, because I was like, man, I really could be learning and doing something useful. It's just this environment is not the environment that I connect with. I needed to be painting, to be creative writing, learning instruments, doing anything that involves artistry and creativity. That would have been a much better environment for me than just like sitting here learning the things that I was being taught. And listen, it's useful stuff for a lot of people. It's just for me, that's not how I'm made up. And I needed creative inspiration. I would have thrived in that environment.
I don't know how much of it really is useful that you use later on in life. I just feel like it's the doctrination of like, you know, public school is just kind of like a sense of programming in a way of like, this is just how we do it. And then that's because it's kind of crazy to think that a child should be sitting that many hours in one day and learn successfully, where like there's been research shown that you learn better when you're outside and moving your body or something like
Yeah,
that
sure.
versus like sitting in a kind of setting like that.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because it's a lot of these public schools are underfunded, or they're made for people to have inexpensive access to school for their kids. But then in that, there's a problem because there's a lack of specificity for kids, where we can cater learning programs for children based on the things that specificity. That's what I was looking for. The each child is different. And the one issue with public schools is they are basically teaching groups of 20 to 30 kids that are all different, that all have varying degrees of creativity or social awkwardness, or some of them are really brilliant at math, but may lack creativity, or some of them are science minded. And they kind of try to give them this very balanced, generic, one size fits all approach. And I think a lot of kids struggle in that environment because it's not meeting them where they are. And I realize that it's probably a difficult, kind of lofty idea to think that we could make school much more elaborate and much more catered to each student because of the lack of resources. But if we could do that, it would be so much better for so many kids that grow up in the public school system, because it's limiting, and it's going to be limiting because it's funded by tax dollars. It's public, it's generic. But in a lot of ways, I think that kids are missing out on a lot of really critical information and learning that they could have at a young age if we could figure out a different way of doing it.
Absolutely.